This is APA tutorial number 5, which addresses passive voice and active voice. Sentences that use active voice focus on the action, and this is APA's preference. Using the active voice emphasizes the action and who did it, and usually results in shorter and clearer sentences. Passive voice instead focuses on the object. You will see passive voice in the sample papers in the APA manual, and it is not wrong. You are allowed to use it. You would use passive voice if you want to emphasize the object, or if the who isn't known or isn't worth mentioning. Passive voice is most often used in the methods section, and it is a way that helps avoid using personal pronouns if that's important. You should always ask your professor if you're not sure whether or not you can use personal pronouns in your paper. Using passive voice can sometimes make sentences confusing or awkward, and if you use it too much, readers can lose interest. We will now review some examples of sentences in passive and active voice. These examples also demonstrate how you could convert passive voice to active voice. In example 1 on the left, the consent forms were completed is passive voice because it does not mention the who and focuses on the object, the consent forms. On the right, the active voice version of this sentence is participants completed the consent forms. This focuses on the who and their action, so it is active voice. This demonstrates one way to convert passive voice to active voice by including the who into the sentence, typically at the beginning. In example 2 on the left, there will be another study by these authors next year, is passive voice because the focus is on the study, even though it does name who will perform the study. On the right, it changes the words around to put the authors first and the action of conducting the study next year. Rearranging the order of things in a sentence and putting the who first is a common way to convert passive voice to active voice. The third example in passive voice is the study on animals was conducted in Ireland. It focuses on the study. One way to change this to active voice would be the authors studied Irish animals. This focuses on the authors and their action. Another way to convert this to active voice is we studied Irish animals. This does use a personal pronoun, which you should verify is okay with your professor. Generally, personal pronouns are common on the discussion board, but less common in papers, but it just depends on the assignment and the professor. To find incidents of passive voice in your paper when you are editing, you can recognize them when the verb phrase includes a form of be, such as am, is, are, was, and were. This is not always a guarantee it's passive. As you'll notice in the example, John was going to the store, but these are a good place to start to search and find your passive voice. Grammar checks will often find passive voice as well. But remember, not everything should be active voice, so you will need to use a judgment call and determine which is most appropriate for each sentence. You can ask others for help, like your professor or the Writing Center, if you need help making that judgment call. Purdue OWL has more information on active and passive voice than the APA manual. That information is not actually in the APA section of OWL. You should go to the OWL homepage and then in the menu on the left, select General Writing, then Academic Writing, and then you'll see active and passive voice as an option. This concludes tutorial 5.